All right, I thought I would come back in here and do a little sequel to this June 5th energy because I went on a walk and I thought, there's a lot more going on here that I didn't get to in the other podcast. So this is a little deeper dive on this opposition aspect between Mars and the big three. And I thought we would just kind of unpack this and let this expand and breathe a little bit because there are a couple of things at play here, and it's not all just tension. So there's a good side of this that we can explore as well. There always is, right? Yin and yang, the world of duality. So as I was thinking about Mars across from Saturn and Pluto. So if you're looking at the chart, Saturn and Pluto are over here. And, of course, they move around all day, right? So it's, I'm just saying, wherever they are, put them at the 6 o'clock position. And then Mars and the moon are just directly opposite. It's called an opposition, and it typically is considered a negative or a tense aspect. So if you just read the book, it would be tension between and remember, we're just talking about energy. I think too many times we attach, we talk about the planets. I mean, Mars is just up there doing its thing. It's just being Mars, and the moon is just being the moon. Saturn is just being Saturn. What astrology does is gives us structure in the brilliance of this system that I think was given to us, but that's a whole different topic. It gives us this structure around the energy movements. Energies are always flowing. And this system captures the movement of energy. So let's speak in different language. The energy represented by Mars, that's the aggressive energy, the Zeus godlike energy, big, bold, getting things done, right? Flex your muscles, power, aggression, the warrior. All of that part of us is represented by Mars. So when we're talking about Mars, that's really what we're talking about. We're not talking about the red planet. It's just a metaphor. So when we think about this aggressive Mars energy, and then when we say that Mars is in the sign of Cancer, my goodness, it's already almost halfway through. It seems like it just went in the other day. It takes Mars about a little over a month to go through a sign, 6 weeks. So Mars is in Cancer. So fire, Mars, Cancer, water. What happens when you put water on fire? So Mars is feeling a little bit stifled right now. It's kind of like it's trying to talk in the microphone, but there's some plastic over it. It's not getting through. It's not communicating. It's not being its big, bold, bad self. It's got this little damper on it. All right, now let's cross it, go to the other side of the chart, Saturn and Pluto. Again, forget about those masses of gases and rock in the heavens out there somewhere. Let's talk about the energies. What energy is represented by the planet Saturn? Karmic disciplinarian, laying good groundwork, foundational, whack you upside the head. I mean, Saturn is that dark side. It's the death side. It's the destruction side. It's the feared side. And like I've said, I'm playing with this and just having fun with that energy of realizing, like just holding it out there and not over fearing what's going on with this Saturn-Pluto thing. I read so many of these astrological articles where people are like, it's the worst thing that's ever going to happen to the world. The world is going to be here this year, next year, and somebody wrote an article the other day about financial disaster in 2020. Like, I don't use astrology that way. I'm looking at the energies, and I'm looking at how do those energies apply to our soul, okay? That's what I'm concerned about. That's my perspective on this. Saturn represents keeping us on our path, and some of us, me being one of these primarily, needed a club against the head to wake up. And that came in the form of divorces and financial problems and all kinds of stuff. That was, I think, the energy represented by Saturn waking me finally up. So by the time I was almost 50, I'm saying, I got to do this a different way. And that was what the energy that is represented by Saturn was doing. It was getting my attention. Well, now that it has my attention, it doesn't have to be like that. Pluto, what energy does Pluto represent? I think of Pluto as the couple down in Waco, Texas that does the show where they remodel houses, or they used to. I think maybe, did they take a hiatus on that show? Did they stop doing the television show? But they would go in and buy a house and renovate it, and the house would be pretty bad. Well, that's what Pluto is. Pluto is, if you watch their episodes, the first thing they would do is come in masks and gloves and demo the house. You tear out all the old stuff that doesn't work. The kitchen cabinets are dated, out. The flooring is all peeled up and chipped and cracked and everything, out. The paint has out. Take the walls off. There might be mold, off. You bring it down to the studs. Why? So that you could build something beautiful. And people travel from all over the world to Waco, Texas, to go see their homes because they're beautiful. That's what Pluto is about. So again, what process are you in your life? Are you in the teardown phase, the destruction, the demo phase? Or are you in the rebuilding phase? Or are you the beautiful butterfly that has been transformed and now you're flying around from flower to flower, sharing the love and the light in the world? See, all of that energy is what is represented. So I don't like these things where we say, oh, Mars is da, 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 da. It's energy. So feel the energy. That's what I was saying in the daily episode today, is feel the energy of the planets. Don't look at this as like that it has to be this certain way. It's an energy flow. So that's what dawned on me on the walk. Mars, that energy, that aggressive warrior energy, is across from these guys that are doing this work. So where are you in the process? Are you getting clubbed upside the head, or are you awake? Chances are you are awake, because you wouldn't have found this and you wouldn't be listening to it were you not. Or at least you're exploring. You're on the journey. And there's this aggression across from that path. Okay, so that could be a little testy. You could be a little grumpy about what's going on in your life. So resistance, how could that show up? It could be resistance. It could be like just feeling emotionally drained, like exhausted, tired. One person on Facebook already posted that she felt that she needed to do a little extra spiritual work. See, that's being in tune with the energy. She didn't need to look at the chart. She just felt it. She could tell there was something that needed to be done. See, that's feeling the little energy vortexes. And I know that what she will do is do the work because she's awake. So Saturn and Pluto aren't beating up on her so much, to speak. But if you lay down your resistances and you work with these energies, so that's where I'm saying keep a journal with you at all times right now and use it every day, because you need to write down what Saturn and Pluto are revealing to you, because they'll give you the clues. It's like a rattlesnake. If you're walking around in the woods and you get too close to a rattlesnake, it will rattle its little tail to say, I'm over here. I don't like that you're in my space. If you will get out of the way, I won't whack at you. But if you get too close, or you step on it, or you don't listen to the warning, pow, and it hurts. That's what's going on here. So just be aware. Work with the energies. How? Well, you intuitively will get these prompts that you need to work on something. Jot it down. My favorite trick in the world is when something comes to you like that, and it's a directional thing or some area of your life, peeling the onion, right? We all are peeling the onion. Go in the opposite direction. Look at what is the complete opposite of what was just presented that I need to work on. Over there, okay, that may be too far extreme, but somewhere in the middle is probably the answer. But look at what would be the complete opposite of what I'm doing. Good place to start, then bring it back. Okay? Now, let's think about something else. What do opposites also do? You've probably dealt with somebody in your family who married their opposite, and you lived through it. And they may or may not still be together, but opposites do attract. So we can play with that here too. How would we take the opposite? Well, we would take Mars, feeling a little bit stifled, like it's got a bag over its head, and we would invite it to be on the positive side of the attraction. So what we could do with that is say, okay, look, Saturn and Pluto are in Capricorn. So we've got this karmic thing going, like we have got to acknowledge and work with this energy. All right, Mars, why don't you bring some oomph to that? Let's punch it. See, Saturn, and here's another thing. Here's another piece of this. Saturn and Pluto are in retrograde. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means if you look in the sky, if you were looking at them in a telescope, along their normal path, I'm not going to overcomplicate this, along their normal path, it would look like they were going backwards in the sky. That's basically when it says retrograde, that's what it means. The planet is not. It's our perception of the planet. It's the way the Earth's rotation intersects their orbit of the sun and all of that. You can read up on it. Look, if you want to Google it. There's a bunch of stuff on that. Why does a planet look like it's going backward in retrograde would be a great Google term if you want to find it. But it does influence, again, the energy. So what happens to the energy? Well, everybody talks about, like the book says, that it brings the energy inside. So the Saturnian energies of solid foundation, karmic purpose, karmic alignment, etc., gets drawn inside. Plutonian energy, that of transformation, inside, inner transformative work. And I definitely agree with that. However, isn't this whole big three thing where we're talking about the nodes, Saturn and Pluto, isn't this all about inner work anyway? So it's like, what difference does the retrograde, I mean, we're doing inner work whether they're moving forward or backwards or sideways, right? The way I'm looking at it. This is all about inner work. The whole thing is about inner work. And I've mentioned too, and since we're just drilling down, let me drill down on this again. Saturn goes around the chart every 28 and a half years, 29 years basically. Pluto goes around, 270? So the last time that Pluto was in Capricorn was before the United States was born. And I checked it, and Saturn never made it into Capricorn. So these two bad boys of transformation never were together. So just multiple lifetimes is what I'm saying. That's almost now you'd have to go back 500, almost 600 years. I just don't see that it's been something that has happened before. And that's why I say this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience to work on your soul. So what I did on the walk was I just tried to swing that Mars energy around to the other way and say, let's just punch this a little bit. While you're going to hang out in Cancer here anyway, and since you're across from these other energies, why don't you pull in this direction and let's just add some zest to this already wonderful process of transformation, and ask Mars to show me some other areas that might be unraveled. See, there's where the Moon-Mars thing can work in our favor. So the moon illuminates, the moon reflects. So you can use Mars to say, instead of being over there and being grumpy and having a pity party because you're in Cancer and you don't like it and you're across from these guys, so you're going to be tense, why not play with it and say, okay, Mars, why don't you do your thing? Yeah, don't do it full throttle, but just show me a couple of things. Moon, you can chime in here too, as you're sitting right next door for a day or two. Why don't you illuminate a few things that these guys over there are trying to show me? So added illumination of karmic purpose, added illumination of soul growth, added reflection of ways that you could work on specific areas that will never possibly be presented in such a way, with such support and such clarity again in your life and many, many lives to come. Oh, you see why I love this stuff? That's why I wanted to come back on here and just ramble for a little bit to tell you more. For those of you who made it this far, congratulations. You got the message. Oh, I've got goosebumps.